Hi, this is Jeff with GMT-5, and today we're going to take a look at the Seiko Solar Chronograph Diver. This is SSC021. It's a very polarizing and bold design from Seiko, and we don't take a look at a lot of quartz watches on GMT-5.com, but I thought that this one was deserving of some attention because it's particularly unique, and I think very much like the Orange Monster, you either love it or hate it. And so as a Seiko collector, this is a watch that either is in your collection already or going to be very soon if you fall on the love it end of the scale like I do. This is a very bold watch, not only in its design but also in its size. So it's a 44mm stainless steel case, it's 51mm lug to lug, and 14mm thick, which is fairly reasonable for a chronograph diver. It makes it pretty wearable. However, the case will appear a bit larger, than its specs, I think because of the 20mm lug width. And that's something Seiko does quite a bit, is they'll pair a very large watch with a pretty narrow strap to emphasize the case. I personally really like that. I don't find this watch to be very top heavy relative to its strap. I think largely because it's not a mechanical watch. So I appreciate that emphasis. The bezel, the crown and pushers are all ion plated, so that'll protect the cosmetic integrity of these extremities over time. You're banging things around on your desk, or if you're actually underwater with this piece. It is an ISO certified diver rated to 200 meters. The heft is not unnoticeable. It certainly is there, but it's not uncomfortable. It's less than what you'd see on a mechanical watch, but you definitely can feel the quality of construction. And I think as you always come to know Seiko for being a brand of quality, it's you certainly feel it there. The technical specs are definitely here, but the dial is very attractive, and I think it's the reason you buy this watch. One thing to start off with here is it is a solar powered watch, and so that means that solar powered watches need to take in light through the dial in order to charge the cell. And what you find on a lot of brands is the dial will look like it takes light through it. It'll be plasticky, or it'll actually be in some cases pretty translucent. But Seiko did a really good job of producing a dial that just looks like a dial. It's regular, and compared to what you would see on a normal quartz or a mechanical watch, it's fairly matte. I think Seiko did a good job there. You don't want to really feel like you have a cheap and plastic dial, and so I really applaud Seiko for hitting that mark. It's incredibly legible. Telling apart the hour and the minute hands is a snap, and of course it's critical underwater. It's super three-dimensional. I absolutely love the depth to this dial. As you move from the bezel down the chapter ring, the slope chapter ring, to the the stage on which these hour markers rest like pearls. Then you have the flat of the dial. Then of course you move over to the date and the between the 4 and the 5 o'clock position, which is a little bit sunken in. It's a completely three-dimensional look. It's a lot of fun, and I think that's what Seiko's really good at. And so I'm happy to see it on this model as well, and I think it's a reason why a watch like this can be so collectible is, it's got the right aesthetic to really keep you interested, and to really attract attention. A note on the date: if you find that you have not so good eyesight, you'll see the date is maybe a little bit difficult to read due to the fact that it's in a very subtle location. And the black background on the date wheel really blends in with the rest of the watch, and the text is kind of small. So something to keep in mind, that you might struggle with recognizing the date if you have trouble with your eyes. At 9 o'clock you have the running seconds hand of the watch with a really interesting and unique shape. I really enjoy it, and it's with the spot of lume on the opposite end. Across the dial you have a 24-hour indicator, which unfortunately you can't use that as a separate GMT hand, because it's not independently adjustable. But it is valuable to know sometimes, are you in AM or PM, especially if you're trying to set the watch. At 6 o'clock you have the 60-minute totalizer for the chronograph, with a nice yellow hand that coordinates well with the central stopwatch seconds hand, which I think is really one of the killer aspects of this watch. It's just, the yellow accent is perfect. I love yellow and black, and I think it sets you up for a lot of great strap options, which we'll get to in a little bit. Inside the watch is Seiko's Caliber V175 solar-powered chronograph movement, which will run for 6 months on a full charge. The movement's another reason to buy this watch. So if you're looking for something that's easy to get up and go, it's always set, this is a great option. There is an end-of-life indicator that'll let you know the second hand will jump every 2 seconds when you are low on charge. I find that the charging mechanism for Seiko Solars is so efficient, however, that I've never actually seen the end-of-life indicator kick into play. I'm sure if I stuffed it in a shoebox for a couple of months, I might see it. But in indirect or direct sunlight, it's relatively easy to keep this thing charged. This watch comes on Seiko's stock polyurethane strap, which for me is a bit of a problem because I have 6 3/4 inch wrists, and I really don't like how the loose end of the strap sticks out. It makes the watch look like it's zip tied to my wrist, and that's a huge pet peeve of mine. Also, I think this is a great watch to pair with nylons, rubber and leather, because they have accents, stitching and striping that can really allow you to coordinate with the yellow in the watch, which I think is a huge opportunity and makes the watch look super nice. So NATOs can use stripes. A lot of leather options like a tropical leather or a rally strap could have yellow stitching to complement the yellow hands on the dial. And I think that this is a ton of options for you with 20mm lug width. It's very common. Straps are readily available, so that's not really a reason to hold you back from purchasing the watch. Finally, I think it's the right price. I think that if you look at a watch like this, it retails for $375, and you can buy it online for $220. Amazon.com sells it. A lot of places sell it, so you'll never have to pay full retail price. It's worth every penny, and it's a watch that's, I think it's cheap enough that you can feel good buying it and that you won't regret it. And if you find that you actually don't fall in love with the look and you're on the other end of that spectrum as far as its polarizing design, then what you can do is pretty easily offload this. I think someone will take it off your hands without too much of a loss. But it's a fun piece to own. I'm really thrilled to have it. And I look forward to wearing it. It's been pretty difficult for me to pry it from my wrist actually over the past couple of days. It's just so easy. Once again, this is the Seiko Solar Chronograph Diver SSC021, and I'm Jeff from GMT-5.com, and we'll see you again soon.